Welcome back to Four Titles, One Truth. Now, today we're sharing something very personal, right? We're talking about moments that changed us forever. And we're just going by the days in the uniform that we'll never forget.
Not all of them are about combat. Some are about leadership failures, some about loss. And some just hit you hard when you least expect it.
Yeah, that's facts. The hardest day in uniform. You ready for this one?
Yes. Let's get into it.
All right.
All right. What's the one day in uniform that stands out as your hardest and why? And I know you got more than one, but which one of those can you say that just still comes back to you today when you just like, what? Oh, my God.
Yeah. So, unfortunately, I have lost multiple soldiers under my command. And those are all hard, right? But there's one that impacts me more than the others. And it's I'm not going to give his name, but anybody who's familiar with the situation will know that we had just come back from Afghanistan. Took a unit there. We were there for 9 months, and we redeployed, and we made it through that tour with only injuries. There was no deaths, no major injuries, right? We've had some mental breakdowns, and we had some physical issues, but
things to be expected.
Absolutely. But anytime you come back from combat and you can bring everybody home with you, that is a huge part of success.
Success.
And so when we came back home, everyone was feeling pretty good, you know. Something I always did when we returned, I'd always try to congratulate everybody and thank them for doing their part when they come back. But I had a soldier who was my guide-on bearer, right? And there's a special relationship between a guide-on bearer and the first sergeant. It doesn't mean that they're buddies. It just means that's the first person I see in formation every day.
Whatever. Yeah.
It's the one I selected to be it because that I thought they were good soldiers and capable of maintaining. And the guide-on is the flag that
It's like a
represents your
reward
unit.
to be the...
Absolutely. It's an honor.
An honor.
Right?
Okay.
And the goal is to pick good people, right, that represent you. And by default, you have conversations with them that you don't get to have with everyday soldiers. He was a specialist, and PFC and then specialist. And you get to know them a little bit because you ask them questions, and trust me, you get to know them way more than they get to know you because you're the one directing the questions most time because they're still, concerned about their rank difference and all that good stuff.
Know the change.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So I knew a lot about him. I knew that the soldier was having marital issues. I knew that his family wasn't in Clarksville while he was deployed, and I knew it was tough on him. But he was A+ level. He's a comms guy.
Okay.
Right. And he was A+ level, meaning every convoy we went on, if he checked your stuff, had nothing to worry about.
It was on point. He was on point with all that stuff.
And he was a hard worker. And so we got back, we come off a block leave, and shortly thereafter, he was killed in a motorcycle accident. Yeah. And so losing a soldier, like I said, is anybody who doesn't take that as a failure, I just honestly believe that they aren't committed to the job. That's my belief. And the fact that he died on a motorcycle accident is one thing. And then the fact that it happened is another thing. But then when you find out what all was involved in that accident, that's where I always give a safety brief. I'm always talking about the right and the wrong, because I'm not going to talk negative about it, right? The right and wrong and what should be done. And there were some actions that were made that could have prevented this mistake. And the mistakes that were made are stuff that I've always covered in my safety briefs, and stuff that I've covered that any soldier of mine you talk to during that time frame would absolutely know. No, we don't do that, or hey, yeah,
Right.
we got to do that, or we got to be smart, or whatever. And so, his passing was tough, but then having to go view the body to confirm that it's him, and to see him in that state.
That's rough, man.
Absolutely. And like I said, he was the guide on bearer, so I'm used to seeing him out in front with the guide on running. I'm used to him standing in front of me in formation. I'm used to talking to him, making sure he knows, going through ceremonies and all that stuff, making sure that he was locked in. And then, like I said, you get to know him, and it was tough, man, because I was like, that being there one day and gone thing is real, first off. And then secondly, thinking that he was going through some tough times, like I said, with the family and stuff, but I just felt he would be all right, and he would be a good soldier. But yeah, that was the hardest day, and the reason it was the hardest day is because it was completely avoidable, but also completely unexpected. You know what I'm saying? And that doesn't mean that it's, and I want to say this because I don't want anybody to think that the other soldiers that I've lost, it doesn't mean I don't think about them as well, but this one right there, this one specifically just stabbed me a little differently than the other ones.
I haven't, I wasn't a first sergeant and none of that stuff. So I didn't have any soldiers per se in that sense, but probably an incident that happened early in my career. I was first lieutenant. I was first lieutenant before I got promoted to captain. I was out in Washington State at Madigan. I was on the heart team, so we would usually do like 1 or 2 hearts a day, and depending on what it was, it was always a chance of having to come back. So I was on call also. So we did
So heart team means that was your specialty.
The specialty,
okay.
yeah, yep.
Okay.
So we did all of the open heart surgery, all of those things. So we worked with those surgeons. We were on that team.
Okay.
So did a procedure. It was on a sergeant major.
Was he retired?
He was still on active duty.
duty.
He was still on active duty. Yep, and he was getting a valve. I think he might have got like a couple of artery. No, he got a couple of bypasses, and he got and he got an artery. A valve, aortic valve. I believe that's what it was.
Okay.
And valves are always scary and difficult because they ooze still a little bit after the surgery, just because you're putting in so many sutures in that one little that area around there, to hold it in. So we had finished the surgery, and we didn't come out of the room immediately because we were trying to make sure that all of the bleeding, it wasn't oozing too much. So when we took him over to ICU, he'd be good. Yeah. So it was I left the hospital about 4:30, driving down to back to our house, which is probably about 15, 20 minutes away. Got to my driveway, pager went off. Didn't have cell phones or anything like that. Had pagers, so I had to call back, or I knew what it was already. So turned around, got back up to the hospital. By the time I got in the room, they had already rolled him over from the ICU. Started doing all of the things because we got to open them up, try to control, try to get the bleeding under control and do all of those things. We worked on them for probably about, at least an hour, hour and a half.
That's post surgery.
Yeah. Well, this is during, doing the redo
gotcha,
just to try to control the bleed. So got him in there, did all of the things. Bottom line, he didn't make it. So the surgeon left the room. So usually what we would do is then we start cleaning up, trying to clean the body up because we want to give the family the opportunity to see their loved one, if that's what they want to do at that time. So, and we were in there another 20, 30 minutes before I said, okay, I'm going to go out and see if the family wants to view him because we would have to take him down to the morgue, So they said, oh, okay. So a resident was in there, the anesthesia guy was in there still, and tech that was in the room with me was in there. So I said, I'm gonna go out and see, if they want to see him, so we know that we need to move him to the family room that we had. So I go out to the waiting room and like I'm looking for Miss, and I kind of knew it was already because it was a group of them, and they were, some of them were crying, and so I was thinking, okay, the surgeon had been out here already, let them know what happened. So I go to the wife, and it was two daughters. I mean, and they were all older. I mean, they were grown, and I said, would you all like to see your husband? They was like, is he back in ICU? I was like, no, he passed. And the mom just started, she was bawling. The one daughter started yelling at me, like, nobody's come out and talked to us. Nobody said anything. What are you all doing? Blah, blah, blah. And the one daughter was very understanding. It's like, thank you so much for coming back out. And I just was like, I am so sorry. Because yes, because if I would have known, I would have gone out and approached it a lot differently.
Right.
And it was something that I learned. I mean, it helped me to learn how I could approach families, whether they were somebody had passed or not, as far as trying to take people off to the side or take them out into the hallway and not in the room. I mean, it helped me to learn
later on.
Yeah, it helped me to grow, but at that time, and I stayed there while the one daughter that was upset was going. Yeah, I was just like, yes, ma'am, yes, ma'am. So they still want. I said, okay. I said I will come back as soon as we get them into the area. I will come back and get you guys. Go back into the room, and the surgeon, the resident. I was like, he ain't ever go out and talk to the family, and the resident was like, "What? Yeah,
normally,
yes.
If that situation happens,
the staff person, the staff surgeon should be the one to go out and
break
it. Yeah, let them know what happened. What could give them all questions and all of those things like that. And
but it ended up you were the one that broke the news.
Yes, and the resident came back and said, "Oh." He didn't go. I was like, no. He said, do you want him? I said, I talked to him. I said, you can go out there if you want to. I said, I already told me, and they already know. So we're going to take them and get them over here to the thing. So that was, and at the time it didn't, I was more hurt and embarrassed that I had to let somebody know that their father, husband, passed, in
especially
that
you weren't prepared for
manner, then
that leads me
anything.
That leads me to my next question then. How did you handle that moment in the moment? Then what would you do differently?
Well, again, I kept on working. Kept on working. I would have moved if I knew that I was going to be the one to I would have taken them somewhere, set them down. And
been gentle.
Yes. It gave them the opportunity to mourn in a separate room by themselves, not with a room. The room full of other folks in the in the waiting room. So
let me walk me through this. So you walk out of the room
Mm-hmm.
and you see the family, or
Mm-hmm.
you go looking for the family.
Yep, in the waiting room.
And as soon as you said that, and their immediate reaction, which was something you weren't expecting,
Mm-hmm.
how did that make you feel?
Oh, I was hurt, man. I was hurt just because it was like, oh my God, I didn't want, because you want to be. I mean, because I know I was I was compassionate about it anyway, but being the one to do the initial breaking when they're in their mind are still hoping.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing is like, I already knew that he had passed. They're still in their mind thinking that I'm coming because I forgot to say I had come out earlier
Oh.
and told them, hey, we're still working on him. He's, we're doing all that we can, and went back in. So when I came out that last time to let them know that he had passed, they were like, nobody else has come out since you talked to us. I almost forgot about that piece.
So they had the surgery.
Mm-hmm.
Told that the surgery went well.
No, that we were working on him, and he hadn't, and that was like a half hour into when we brought him back
Okay.
to work on him. Because I had talked to him earlier in the day when we did the initial surgery, and then whenever we brought him back that evening, I had gone out there about 30 minutes after we had started and got him hooked up and started doing all of the things. Tell him, say, hey, we're working on him.
Right.
Can't say what, how we're going left or right at this point in time. But, and then when I went out there the last time, they were thinking I was just coming out to give another update.
You're right.
And I did give an update,
Yeah.
but it wasn't an update that they were wanting. So, but yes, I would have approached the stuff all of the same way. How did I at the time? Like I said, I felt horrible.
Yeah.
I mean, I felt horrible just because of how it went down. Because felt like I should have. I don't know how, but I should have known.
Yeah.
And it's just like, why did you do? So you just, those are some of the things where you just would pop into my head whenever I would be out on a run or something. Be like, or just driving, and you just, it pops in, and you're like, oh my God, what happened there? But I'll say that the leadership in the hospital were great, because I was getting phone calls at the house. Are you doing okay, Lieutenant Taylor? We heard what happened, blah, blah, blah. That wasn't your fault. And I was like, oh, yeah, I'm fine. Thank you. I'm fine. But
you could have spun out, though.
Yeah.
And see how you could have spun out.
Yeah. So, and that was, and I had seen people, been in a situation where people had passed, and just because of where I work, that happens sometimes. But yes, it was that was a moment, like that was early in my career where it really where it hit me.
Goodness.
Yep.
So how did I handle it in the moment? I was surprised, of course, and because it happened early in the morning. So I think it was around 2 or 3 o'clock, and the worst part is hearing about how he died. So he was turning not a corner, but going around a bend,
Mm-hmm.
and his foot prongs, where you put your feet, had made contact with the ground. So he leaned a little too far, and that caused him to automatically overcorrect. Yeah. And then he ended up hitting in the middle of his body on the side. He hit a sign. So he's going about 35 miles per hour. So hearing about that, and then, because it's one thing to hear about he died, but then when you start to hear about how he died, it just gets worse. And then you hear about the circumstances that led up to it.
See, and I understand. I mean, especially with the motorcycles and stuff, because we would get those into the ER, OR, and I know what those injuries look like. So, man,
And then you start to think about, did he die immediately? Because once again, it was 3 o'clock in the morning, somewhere around there, and there was no traffic. So, and then,
and did he bleed out? I mean,
yeah,
internal
and then you got
bleeding
to
and
go
things.
visit
Yeah.
the spot where it happened. And, all I kept thinking about was like, we made it back from Afghanistan where we ran convoys. And there were times he was in the convoy because he was comms. And,
Y'all over there for a year.
absolutely, yeah. And he just, and the fact that how he passed, unfortunately, I have to say, so there was alcohol. So it was a group of people in my unit that they went bike riding, right?
Mhm.
They went riding for a crew, and they ended up going to a couple bars or whatever. And then they went over this one soldier's house where they were going to stay, and they were supposed to stay all night.
Mhm.
But for some reason, the soldier got up in the middle of the night and started riding his bike back home. Yeah, so I feel that's why I'm not going to say his name, but I had to put that out there. But, and just finding out all the details, it's just like, oh my gosh, right? And so the second part is you get phone calls from family, and the family was in California. And as a leader, you can't have those conversations because there
Can't
are
give 'em all the
people
details
that are
like
supposed to handle those conversations. And so this is the first time I ever lost somebody, and I was trying to be compassionate and towards the family. And it's not like I gave out any wrong information. It's just that
You can only give them so much.
absolutely, and
you can go into
you
detail.
can't go faster than the person who's supposed to give them the
Yeah.
info. So
The
that
casualty
caused,
assistance, folks.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So that caused a scene. So it was a cluster times a cluster times a cluster. In other words, a mess. What would I have done differently looking back?
What could you have done differently though in that situation? Because you gave them the. I mean, you would put out the information to the masses.
But I did consider, right? So I felt at that time that I should have said, hey, I'm serious about the drinking. I don't know how I could have said it more seriously. Motorcycle driving, to be honest, what changed in me from then, or not what changed, but the only thing I came to a conclusion that I could do different was just more safety briefs, more conversation with the soldier who's standing with, who I spent the most time close to in the unit, because he's my guide on all through Afghanistan. I feel that maybe I should have had a little more direct conversations with him, and like, hey, you're representing the unit, representing me, blah, blah, blah. But the sad part is, I know I must have said that at some point, and I don't remember now. But and the worst part is, you can't mourn, right? Because you have to be strong for everybody else, and so you have to accept it, and of course you mourn within yourself, and you try to lead your unit through it. But you're so busy checking on everybody else that you're not sure about checking on yourself,
because your
or
job,
talking,
you're constantly
absolutely.
burying, which is going to hit you whenever you.
Yeah, and it did hit me a little later, but it's just it was tough. Like I said, I'm not saying that this soldier was my best friend. What I am saying is, I saw a soldier that was struggling, well, because of the marriage, and they had a child, but I also saw a soldier that I thought could get through it. You know what I'm saying? And he never got a chance to, right, because of some bad decisions and a bad situation.
Okay, let me ask you this then. Did that moment change how you led your life or lived your life afterwards?
It did. It changed it changed my interaction towards my soldiers.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is I used to feel, and this is all, it's a hard line, right? When the more rank you make, the less you're supposed to take yourself out of the scenario because you have a broader scope to pay attention to. So a new private comes to the unit. As a squad leader, I'm with that soldier every day,
You all up in that
building them
business.
from scratch, right? I'm basically showing them what direction to walk, right? Then when you become a platoon sergeant, you see that soldier in formation, but you're off doing everything else, right? Because that squad leader, now that you're in charge of the squad leaders, now it's the squad leader's responsibility. So you have to figure out where you need to input and where you need to stay out of, right? And then it just keeps getting further and further. Now you're the first sergeant, so you go from the squad leader, we'll say 5 to 12. Platoon sergeant, we'll say roughly throughout my career, platoons were about 40 to 45. And now as a first sergeant, we're talking a unit of about 180 to 200. And so you cannot, no matter how much you try, you can't get to know everybody individually
It's
when
hard.
you're at that level, right?
Yep, it's hard.
And so the few that you get past that point of the professional conversations or the counselings or the Article 15s, the punishment, you get past that point and you get to know some of these soldiers, because I had another soldier that committed suicide. But he was my soldier, but I had already given up the guide on, right? And so I was waiting to go to the academy, and I get a phone call while I'm on downtime before I go on leave and start clearing. Come to find out, the soldier killed himself, and and that's
rough, man.
and that hit me hard because that was one of the soldiers I used to just talk smack to. I was a headquarters first sergeant, and so you have a bunch of senior leaders, junior leaders, but you have very few E4 and below. And so I used to pay attention to the E4 and below, all right, and try to make sure they were on the right path to success. So I would try to give more time, even though I was always in meetings and stuff. But that one specific soldier, man, he had it. He had the physical capabilities. He had the curiosity, and I thought he was gonna be successful, but then he killed himself because of a relationship thing. So, but the soldier that passed on the motorcycle, like I said, I literally was every morning and every formation. I'm like, hey, what's up? Hey, how's your day going? Or how you doing? How's your family? Blah, blah, blah. So you get past that professional relationship. So what it did was my next first sergeant job, which I just sort of talked about, I tried to get more, to purposely get more involved with the lower enlisted, to the point to where I used to have a E4 and below count a monthly sit down with E4 and below, and just try to give some basic leadership, and just have conversations to try to do that. But just to get to know them more, and just try to, because we said it before, the whole point of the military is trying to get all these personalities, all these different experiences, and try to get them somewhat in the middle so that they can learn from each other, grow from each other, but bottom line, effectively accomplish the mission.
Right.
So you have to give them something to believe in. You have to give them something to dream about, right? And it's a complicated recipe that you have to come up with. And yes, there's step-by-step things that you can do when it comes to counseling and all that stuff, and preparing them for the future, but it also takes time, and commitment from the leadership in order in order for those soldiers to develop. So it just it made me stop paying as much attention as I was. It changed the way my attention was on my subordinates.
Okay.
Right, because I only focused on the platoon sergeants and drove them.
Mm-hmm.
All right, because the platoon sergeants were my immediate subordinates,
Mm-hmm.
but they were the ones that
They're
were
supposed to be
supposed to
taken care
turn
of.
around
Mm-hmm.
and put that same pressure on the squad leaders, and so on. But that broke me of that. I still put pressure on the platoon sergeants because that was my job, because they were the next first sergeant. But I went around and put pressure on everybody.
Well, I'm sure that the soldiers talked to you and told you about things that you could go back to the platoon sergeant and be like, "Hey, what's going on with Jones's thing?
Yeah.
Did you know about that? Are you talking about that?" Or
But that absolutely opens up that conversation for you to find that stuff out. So that was my adjustment. After that, I adjusted how I applied my attention to my formation.
Okay.
So that was a thing. And then, of course, when you lose somebody or you fail somebody, even if nobody believes you failed them, but you do, it's that stays with you the rest of your life.
Right.
And I'll never forget. I'll never forget him. Never forget how I used to see him. And then the last thing is, I'll never forget how I saw him laid on that table with no life in him. Yeah. So that was.
Yeah,
it was crazy.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, for me, I think it just changed how you talk about leading and how practicing nursing. How I did, and I'm lucky but I'm glad that it happened early in my career, because it had helped me to adjust that, and also tell younger nurses and folks I tell them the story about it. So that they would be aware. So it's like, hey, I'm just want to let you know things that you need to, things you need to ask or look for, so that thing because that doesn't have to happen to you, because it happened to me already, and it's for me to share. It just taught me not to be scared or embarrassed to share whenever I did have mess up or have problems, whatever, and to treat it as a learning situation, regardless of what it was, as long as it was not illegal or, wasn't going to be under probate or, something crazy. But yeah, I think that not as, didn't have any situations that were as deep as where I had somebody passing, but it'd just be different things as far as like, when you're in charge and you're leading and stuff, where it's like, man, did I do right by that person? That still to this day will come up and it's like, did I handle that situation correctly, at that time? But yeah, it's good. It happens, and then it's just how you adjust and how you move on afterwards.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this. I was very hard on my soldiers coming up, and there were absolutely a lot of times where soldiers didn't get it, and the reason I was so hard on them is because I always felt that the sooner you learned that there are consequences for your actions, both positive and negative, the sooner that you learn that, the sooner that you're able to actually move through life smartly, and that was I held people accountable.
That's like what some folks have to learn. And learn accountability, how to learn. Yeah, they have to learn that. Some folks do.
Some people will fight you tooth and nail, and the pressure that brings on when you hold people accountable to the same standard, everybody, that forces you to walk that same line, because you can't be a bulldog. A believable bulldog, and what I mean by bulldog, I mean somebody who's really paying attention, and trying to develop your soldiers in a certain way. You can't be that if you're not walking that same line, and that's more stress.
It
Right?
can't be a do as I say, not as I do.
Absolutely, you out there walking around drunk, but then when your soldier does it, you writing them up, So it's just things like that.
Yeah.
So what did that day teach you about resilience, leadership, or failure?
Yes, all of the above. So I mean, resilience is always just
bounce back,
bouncing back from it, and the leadership piece was help. I mean, just
being
help start being aware, the communication piece of it, seeing how important that is, and I mean, communication is important in every section piece of life. Period.
Right.
You got to be able to communicate, and then just failure. Seeing what what should have been, how something should have gone down, and being able to take that failure and try to turn it into a positive, throughout my career, as far as trying to teach more and not be afraid to share failures and things that have happened to me or things that I have done to try to make my soldiers better. And that's the whole goal, is like, I don't it helped me to be more of I'm not trying to, all of this knowledge and things that that I've had the opportunity to gain and learn and do, for me to just keep it in my head and not share it or tell anybody, that's a waste. So if I have it and I know, I'm gonna give it to you, I'm gonna let you know, because if you can do better or because it helped me, and I'm if it can help you to even be better than that, then hey, use it, don't use it, but you have been informed, and that piece has been given to you. So
I'm gonna tell you this. I know I'm going off on leadership, whatever, but you cannot effectively lead soldiers without, you cannot effectively lead people without identifying some of your failures. Because if they only hear the good and great stuff, then they stop looking at you as a human, and they sit there and start judging themselves about, well, I can't do that. That
don't make any sense. That's unrealistic. Yeah.
Or not just that. It could be something that they just say, well, you did say realistic. It's something that they just can't do, right? And that's something that's real, So when you're a leader and you have subordinates, no matter where you are in what field, you have to let them know the true story of how you made it, because that gives them a true path that they can at least start to walk towards leadership. And that's,
I mean, and just so people know that you can be exceptional and you can still have some flaws.
Absolutely. Well,
and that's
you
okay.
are exceptional with flaws.
Yeah.
That's a fact, because you're human.
Yep.
All right. And nobody is There's two things I believed in this world, right? Nobody's perfect, and nobody's succeeded without help. That is a fact. I'm telling you.
True. Facts.
What it taught me about resilience is I still had soldiers to lead.
Yep.
And not only did I have to lead them, I had soldiers that I had to help get through this madness. So that basically sped up my resilience, or even if it was not realistic, but it made me refocus and try to help everybody through this. Because you got to remember, I was the first sergeant. A soldier had a squad leader. A soldier had a platoon sergeant. A soldier had
folks that probably really knew him.
Real friends. Yeah. So they were dealing with it on levels that was beyond me. And so that was the resilience piece. And when it comes to leadership, like I said, the one confidence I took away from that is I know and I knew that when it came to safety briefing and when it came to motorcycles specifically, there's not a person in that unit that didn't know my stance on that, on what safe looked like, and I was less bothered because I was confident it was more of a decision they made versus not knowing.
Not
Right.
being informed. Yep.
Absolutely. It was an informed decision they made to
Mm-hmm.
go against what I preached all
Right.
the time. And then the failure, losing a soldier, that's a failure. There's no way around it. It's just that sometimes failures are inevitable,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And I took that. I re-energized myself on, like I said, my approach to leadership,
Mm-hmm.
and I would like to say that it absolutely made me a better first sergeant the second time, and absolutely made me a better sergeant major.
Yep.
Yeah, without a
I
doubt.
believe it.
Um, would I rather not experience that? 100%. But that's how it goes, man.
All right. Then, really, the last thing, you probably answered it, but how do you carry that experience uh, with you now today, even after being out of the uniform and not being in charge and all of those other good things?
Like I said, it's the images of him are vividly in my head, of him as a soldier, him as my God on bearer, and also him laying on that slab.
Okay.
So, and also the fact that that moment changed, that made me reevaluate parts of my leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, hopefully that made me a better leader in the future. But when it comes to post-retirement, it's sort of the same way. If I see somebody and they sort of feel like you get that feeling that they're not doing okay, I literally asked them, I asked them, how you doing? I asked them, are you okay? Because I believe that you have to open that door. Now,
Yep.
a lot of people won't give you
Right.
the legitimate feedback, but
Right.
being that person that asks that question, to give them opportunity to get some of that stress and that weight off of them,
Mm-hmm.
that's something that I believe that I was chosen to be,
Right.
because the way my personality is, and willing to speak to anybody. I absolutely try to engage with as many people as possible,
Right.
because I do believe that you never know when you find that
Right.
one that needs somebody to at least act like they
All right.
care a little bit.
I mean, and I agree with you. We had different situations, but I agree with you in that what you just said is it made you a better human being.
Absolutely.
And I
Absolutely.
think that that's the goal for all. I mean, all of us want to be better human beings,
Absolutely.
compassionate, caring, loving. All of those things that make sense. It just makes sense when we're dealing with other folks.
Yeah.
Trying to help take care of folks, to help them try to inform folks. And I know that I do that with family, with my kids, with my cousins, with who parent, mother,
Yeah.
sister,
Checking
whatever.
up on people.
You just try to be a just be a good person, because it's like it's hard to be a nasty jerk, or and
Yeah.
not
There's
care,
a
or
lot
not
more
have
energy
anybody.
lost.
Yeah, I mean it's so much easier and so much it's more fulfilling
Yeah.
when you're able to do that. And I think my situation helped me to start learning how to do that early, to the point where whenever I was finally about to retire and stuff, that I understood it,
Yeah.
learned it, had experiences in the past that helped make me the person that I am now. In retirement, I'm gonna keep on being that.
Same person.
Yeah,
you've
being that
evolved
same
into.
person. Yeah. So
I completely agree.
Yep.
Because it was another thing the military has brought to me is it made me realize that you can get stuck in your own world and you forget or miss the rest of the world. You know what I mean? So when you're only concerned about you and what's in front of you and what's connected to you, you can miss something completely.
well, just learning. I mean, because you said it, and I said it brought into my head is like it's the same thing that as far as leading, I would always tell folks, especially the young people, because everybody when they're young they want to be in charge and they want to, and people think that leading is sitting behind that desk,
easy.
and this is where I am
Yeah.
sitting behind the desk. And I tell folks, I said, you can't lead sitting behind the desk. You got to get out and go see what's going on. So I made it a point that I would walk around all my sections in the morning and sometimes throughout the day, just to talk to folks, see what was going on. If it was the private to the major to the lieutenant, I would go around and see what was going on with everybody, so that they knew who I was, for one, and then I wanted to know who they like. What's going on? What's the problem? What's your concern? How can we make this better for you? And then also to make sure that my leaders, my head nurses and NCOICs and those folks is like, hey, are you tracking such and such, to make sure that they're tracking, because I know that they have big jobs, stuff going on, but it's like sometimes it's like the little stuff. You can get a big win and just make sure that they know, make sure that they're taking care of their folks, and taking care of their folks isn't just
It's felt.
one certain way. Yeah. So,
And that's another thing. It's the more rank you make and the more leadership positions you're in, the less time you have to do that stuff.
Yep.
So it has to be a concerted effort. And I'm telling you, like, I've been in jobs where the only time I'm not sitting in a meeting is PT, physical training, lunch, and home. Because I was a G4 Sergeant Major, C4 Sergeant Major in a 2ID. And I'm telling you, the general calls a meeting, you got to be there, right? The deputies call a meeting, you got to be there. Chief of Staff calls a meeting, you got to be there. The G3 calls a meeting, you got to be there. The Sergeants Majors have a meeting, you got to be there. Oh, wait. I call a meeting, you got to be there. My boss calls a meeting, you got to be there. My colonel called a meeting. It's just, it's so easy to get caught up in your world.
Your world.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Your requirements, right? Your duties. But finding time and making time, it's like impossible, but somehow you have to try to figure it out.
Yeah, you got to.
And then you got to hope that your subordinates understand that you're not always around, and understand, and that's where the flow of knowledge and of leadership, you just hope that flows down to where, in a perfect world, the squad leader, right, that first level of leadership, is being talked to, coached, and mentored and developed in a way that the message is getting to the newest soldiers, so that they have an idea, so that they're not going through the ranks confused and having to learn this stuff all over again.
Yep.
And it's oh my gosh, it is a mother sucker. I'll say that. And just in closing, some days stay with you, and honestly, they should.
Yep.
Because that's where growth comes from.
Absolutely.
Your worst day should hopefully help you to not ever be in that situation or that scenario
that's
again.
So true.
Yeah.
And if you're still out there in the fight, just know you're not alone. You're not by yourself.
100%.
Hard days don't last, but the lessons do.
Yeah.
So you need to make sure that you're using them, use them for good,
And learning them.
and learning from them. Yep.
Yeah. And we don't mean us old heads. We're talking about your peers are going through the same thing you are.
Yep.
So talk to them. And I'm telling you, as a sergeant major, the biggest thing that we used to try to do is we used to try to get peers in the NCO world to communicate with each other. Get to know somebody of the same rank in a different unit, different platoon, blah, blah, blah.
Because they're having the same.
Yeah, absolutely. You start to
same
see
problems.
you have the same situations, and you can help coach and mentor each other. So just something. But thanks for joining us for this one. This was literally from our hearts. And hit that subscribe button and let your friends know that this podcast exists.
It exists, y'all. Also follow us on Instagram and watch our podcast on our YouTube channel at 4 Titles, 1 Truth. We will be back.
Yes, we will.
To keep the conversation going, y'all.
So join us.
All right.
Holla.
Peace.